And if you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, agenda review, anything to add or to the agenda, Kathy? Nothing? Okay. Okay, first order of business, we have two sets of minutes to approve. First, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes for the August 3rd meeting. Moved by Charlene, second by Tim. We'll take a roll call vote. Any errors, omissions, corrections on those minutes? Okay, hearing none. Krista? Julianne? Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim? Yes. Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Thank you. And second, entertain a motion for the minutes of the school board meeting on August 6th.
Second.
Moved by Charlene. By Tim. Okay, any errors, omissions, corrections on those? Okay, hearing none. Krista?
Yes.
Julianne?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim? Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene? Dana?
Yes.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you. Okay, this is the time for public input. We'll allow as many people that want to speak on public input at this point. Again, 5 minutes maximum per person. So if there's anyone who would like to speak, please step up to the microphone in the front and speak loud enough so everyone can hear, not only here, but anyone that might be watching online. Okay. Anyone like to speak tonight? Okay, if not, we'll move right into the meat of the meeting. We will have public input at the end of the meeting as well. So after we have our discussions this evening. So the first thing on the agenda is the sports programs for the fall.
I believe that Aaron House is here with us tonight. So Aaron, would you like to come up and talk about sports?
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here.
Yeah, Aaron, keep your mask up.
Oh, you got to do that this time? Okay.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll just speak loud enough so we can hear you.
Got it. All right. All right, so thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak with all of you today on behalf of the athletic department. My name is Aaron House. I've been the director of athletics for Kingswood since 2015 and a proud employee of the Governor Wentworth Regional School District since being hired. First, I should answer the question that is perhaps on the minds of many people this evening. Yes, I believe we should play sports at Kingswood this fall in an effort to support the social, emotional, and physical well-being of our student athletes. There have been two documents produced by Kingswood Athletics for the board's review. The first was entitled Return to Play Fall 2020 and was submitted in late July. The Return to Play document was an attempt to provide as much information available to our department in an effort to inform and ultimately assist the school board in determining a safe path forward. The second document provided to the school board is what should be considered the official recommendation from the athletic department, and it was submitted at the end of last week. In a nutshell, the recommendation to play fall sports involves a phased approach that gives us tremendous flexibility as a department and as a district. It's very important to me that everyone here tonight, viewing from home, or perhaps watching later, understands that the recommendation from my office to the board is the same recommendation that I would make to family and friends. On a personal note, and in the interest of full disclosure, I not only work in the district, I live here too. I have a daughter who will enter 3rd grade this fall at Carpenter Elementary and a son who will be entering 7th grade at the middle school. My son is also participating with our golf program by way of our Kingswood summer session trainings going on today. The Kingswood Athletic Department rosters over 1,000 student athletes annually, along with employing close to 100 coaches each school year. It's my belief that we have the resources, a dedicated coaching staff, resilient student athletes, along with their families, to make fall sports a reality in such uncertain times. Our aim is to have the best solution for our community given the current situation. Tonight, I'd like to answer any questions that you may have, and I hope to see a motion made in support of my recommendation allowing Mrs. Cuddy-Egbert, Mr. Donnelly, Mr. Riley, and myself to move forward with fall sports as outlined. Thank you.
Okay, let's read through, I think, the recommendations going forward. And one of the things that, Aaron, if you could explain to the people here and the people watching what the skills training process is, because I think a lot of people have said where, the kids are out practicing. Well, they're not really practicing for their sports, individual sports teams, but they're in this skills process. So I think it would be good if you could explain a little bit of exactly what that is.
Yeah, sure. That's correct. So we've been running skill sessions here on campus since July 13th. I believe our football program was the first to begin. All of the skill session trainings have been in compliance with the state of New Hampshire guidelines. All the New Hampshire guidelines follow suit with the CDC. And we do have a process for that. We ask the coaches to, obviously get training. We had a Kingswood summer training night at the lecture hall where we reviewed, at that point in time, all the Phase 1 guidelines from the governor's office for the amateur and youth sports. Our coaches have been in compliance with those documents, and the kids have been showing up and working hard. We have multiple sports utilizing these right now. The impact on the student athletes from their emotional standpoint, physical standpoint, after many of them sat idle for months since the pandemic broke in March, it's really been priceless. So these sessions that have been happening, again, have been under following the guidelines of Phase 1, and we're now well beyond that at this point in the state. However, we have been very conservative and have kept the kids at that phase during all the trainings right up until today.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm going to read through the recommendations on your sheet here, and I think it's important to understand exactly what this proposal is, and then we as a board can discuss it and decide if we want to move forward with it as proposed. Allowing the Director of Athletics, under the direction of the Superintendent in consultation with the Kingswood Regional Middle School and Kingswood Regional High School principals, to proceed with fall sports as follows. All programs will utilize the most recent guidelines from the state of New Hampshire, the New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association, New Hampshire Athletic Directors Association, and the National Federation of State High School Associations, under purview of the Kingswood Department of Athletics. Fall sports registrations will be relaunched, with registration opening Wednesday, August 26th at 8 a.m. and will close Sunday, September 6th at midnight. All previously registered families will be notified that they must re-register. Varsity tryouts will be held beginning on the NHIAA start date of September 8th. All Kingswood athletic programs will be restricted to skills sessions, practices, and inter-squad scrimmages. Geez. In a phased approach until October 1st. On October 1st, the Director of Athletics will seek approval from the Superintendent, Kingswood Regional Middle School principal, and Kingswood Regional High School principal about playing a regional Lakes Region game schedule beginning October 5th. Should regional games be allowed, varsity teams will be permitted to take part in the NHIAA Open Tournament planned for mid-October. The goal is to continue athletic programming for our student athletes in a safe and responsible manner. By having a phased approach, we are providing our families, coaches, and administrators with time to ease into the possibility of an interscholastic schedule by October. This approach gives us tremendous flexibility to change course as needed. And there are more considerations as well that we can read through. But the basic proposal is to have the registrations again open until September 6th. The skills training from the start September 8th through, it will be September 8th, correct, Aaron?
Correct. That's the official tryout date.
So the official start date would be September 8th and phased in through October 1st, at which time the athletic department then would seek to open the season for Lakes Region type games if there are teams out there to play. Is that pretty much?
You nailed it, yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
First part, you talk about following the NHIAA guidelines. In doing that, are you talking about the sports that are in the level 1, then the level 2, and then the level 3?
Yes.
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 So they don't all necessarily start at the same time?
Well, I believe all the sports are permitted to begin on September 8th.
You mean in a practice vein, but not in a...
Right. I sit on that council at NHIA, and I think the practices can start on the 8th. Football, I believe, is not available until the 28th, I think it is.
I believe everyone starts on the 8th, and
Right.
football's first game, interscholastic game, I believe is the 26th.
26, yeah, I know it's down a ways because there was a lot of discussion about moving the 8th to a Friday or a Saturday before that because the games are always Friday and Saturday. But so yeah, there's a phase in. I think bass fishing could start the following day. I think that's pretty much. There's no practice time necessary for that. I think golf was another one that could start, relatively soon after the 8th for actual tournament competition if there was such a thing. But anyway, that's the way I understand some of those sports. But the higher risk sports like football is pushed out until I think the 26th is the first time that we would actually be able to play. So
I would just like to add, if you all are more comfortable possibly entertaining those earlier start dates for bass fishing or golf, that's certainly under your discretion. For me, October 1 was really that date across the board for all of our sports to participate interscholastically. It does create some challenges. Bass fishing season, as quick as it starts, it ends. The waters get cold and all of a sudden the fish just aren't biting. So I do think there needs to be possibly some further discussion at some point. But even Mr. Fuller, golf, that season is over essentially before it begins. And we want to make sure that we're obviously keeping the kids safe. But if we're going to be interested in giving them an interscholastic season, we may have to look at when opponents are able to play and make sure the kids are safe.
could, Aaron, if your basic plan is approved tonight, could you come back with us, back to us with some recommendations for those specific sports? We're going to meet again on September 10th, unless we have to move, meet before that. But if you could come back with a recommendation on September 10th, that's only 2 days past the beginning of the training process, which sports might be, whether it be golf or bass fishing or something that would make sense to start a little bit earlier, that would be good for us to know.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Aaron on the sports proposal? Yes, Charlene.
Thank you, Jack. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, just speak up.
Okay. Aaron, I do have a question for you. And it's something that has troubled me since the first time I saw the proposal, and I appreciate all the work that went into creating the proposal. Appendix E and Appendix F of the proposal are waivers of liability for COVID-19 and hold harmless for student athletes. That's Appendix E, and then Appendix F is a similar waiver of liability for coaches. And I'm just going to read one little section, and it says, I understand and acknowledge that my child, while playing, practicing, or participating in sports, is at risk of acquiring or transmitting COVID-19, which may result in personal injury, illness, permanent disability, and death to my child, myself, my spouse, other children, friends, unborn child, or relatives. And then the same paragraph appears in the COVID-19 waiver of liability and hold harmless for coaches. So my question is, given the fact that you're following CDC guidelines and NHIAA guidelines and national sports guidelines and whatnot, why is it necessary to include these waivers of liability?
I will answer that to the best of my ability. I believe when we first looked at having summer session trainings, the waivers were something we were seeing presented at multiple travel sport programs. I had to sign a similar one for my son to attend hockey camps this summer, so I felt it was in the best interest to have some type of language that we would have here at the district. I could be wrong if the superintendent would like to jump in here, but that was a district waiver that was vetted by our school district attorneys, and that is why it was included as part of the registration system for summer trainings.
So it was felt that there was enough of a risk that there might be liability issues, and so because of that, you consulted with the school district attorney to incorporate this into your proposal. Is that correct?
I did not consult with the school district attorney.
Charlene, maybe I can help with this. When Aaron sent the information to me, the waivers were in the information, and generally, in any situation, we try to make sure that the district is protected. So I did have the waivers vetted by the attorney. I don't think because Aaron necessarily thought that there was any severe risk, nor did I. But it's a standard practice to protect the district from liability.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. Any other questions for Aaron at this point? Dana?
I don't know.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. Aaron, thanks for being here. I was just wondering if, with the teams that we play in our class, has any school canceled? Has the schedule been modified? In other words, are there some school districts that are not going to play fall sports?
So the majority of the schools that we play in Division II have agreed to do a more regional schedule. That was decided upon several weeks ago. And now what we see happening is they're breaking down the barriers between Division I, Division II, Division III. Those are classified by population sizes of schools. I have a meeting Wednesday. Hopefully I can attend, depending on the outcome of this meeting, with Lakes Region athletic directors. We're meeting at Guilford High School at 10 a.m. So you'll see schools, Kingswood, Prospect Mountain, Plymouth, Kennett, Belmont, Winnisquam, schools around the Lakes region looking to just have some games for the kids to play.
Yeah, that's where I was confused, where it says lake regions. So that's what's being developed?
That's what
because of COVID-19?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Aaron at this point? I guess my only concern, and I think maybe because we're only getting back to school, I understand the skill sessions can start on September 8th. The students are only coming back to school on the 14th, and I'm wondering if that's really enough time between that and October 1st to get everything moving on October 1st. I understand the seasons get a little short too, and I don't know if October 1st is a reasonable, or we could push that out an extra week or something like that, but a little bit concerned that with the students just getting acclimated back to school for 2 weeks, it might not be enough time to, to get all this stuff put together. So, yes, Tim.
I have a quick question. On average, how many students do we have, like, per team?
That's a great question. On average in the fall,
Yeah.
per team, I'd say 20 on average.
13 to
So you
20?
may have 40 kids in, like, say, a boys soccer program, but you'd have 20 varsity and 20 JV. But, I mean, cross country, I think right now they're at 12 or 13. So
Okay.
it's kind of a tricky number to try to pinpoint.
Because my concern would be transportation, how we're going to get the students to and from the sports events. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but is late bus running? No? Yes?
We haven't even discussed that yet, Tim.
Okay. So that would potentially turn into a huge issue, getting the students. And I know that's under consideration, but I think for me, I would need to know a little bit more what the plan would be as far as what that's going to look like. Have you thought about what that will look like?
I have. So my first phone call tomorrow will be to Mary Ann Belanger in transportation, should this be approved, because she needs to be involved early on. The athletic directors, we're all in the same boat, because most of us are looking at 13 kids a bus. So we've talked about everything from having only varsity games during the week and having JV middle school games on the weekend. That's one way to possibly make it work. My bigger concern with transportation is not so much game transportation, it's making sure that if kids want to be here for practice, they can be here for practice. So I'd like to meet with Mr. Donnelly and Mr. Rowley to talk about sending out a survey to all of our registered student athletes once we were to reopen registration for fall sports, and just try to get an understanding of what our families need. Again, it could be that possibly we're sending buses to go pick kids up if there's a drop point. Can we use an elementary school, Ossipee Elementary for those families in Ossipee, New Durham Elementary for those families down there, to the parents at least get them there, and then maybe we take them from there to their practices. And even though it wouldn't be maybe a late bus, that bus would then return those children to that site. Again, have I thought about it? Yes. Have I discussed it with Mrs. Belanger? No.
Okay.
Julianne, you're on, I think.
I think it's on.
Aaron, I know my daughter's playing volleyball tonight and my son's doing football tonight. How many students have participated in the last couple of weeks? And my other question is, what's the feedback from the coaches and the parents? Do they all want their kids to play? Do the coaches all want to come back?
So we met as a staff on Friday night. We had probably 2/3 of our coaching staff able to make that meeting. And we're looking to also meet on Wednesday, again, depending the outcome of this meeting, because that's a big question for some coaches. We certainly don't want to force anyone into the position where they feel like they have to coach. So that's going to be a big question to ask all the coaches if they're comfortable returning with the guidelines in place, because it is a little extra work. Actually, it's a lot more work to make sure we're following guidelines. From what I can tell, the coaches are excited. I can tell you that I've attended 3 sessions out at Alumni just to observe, and actually one I helped coach. The energy on the field is unreal. The kids feel, I think, fortunate to be out there. you could just see the relationship building happening between the coaches and the kids. I haven't had anyone contact me about not wanting to play sports. I've had a lot of people emailing me saying they missed fall registration. How do I get my child registered? I understand there's summer sessions going on. How can my kid participate? So that has been the bulk of emails that I've been replying to in terms of participation.
Okay, anyone else? Charlene? Yeah? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Dana?
Yeah, just one more question, Aaron. Let's say, for example, I agree with everything you've written here. It's a wonderful report. And let's say we go with the refined opening with having sign-ups and having practices. I'd like to make the decision well before the 5th. I'm not sure if the decision is going to be finished tonight, but just in case we decide to open up to fall sports and everything goes south, people get scared, we have incidents of COVID-19. Are we prepared? Usually there are more students who want to play than there are positions. Is there any way we can turn around with the coaches to have intramural teams? And that way we stay home, but the students still get the techniques and the playing, and just a thought.
So my answer to that is yes, we could do intramurals. We discussed intramurals internally in the athletic department. I think speaking from the student athlete experience, they want to represent our community, they want to represent our school, and you know, it's the pageantry of sport. It's our school colors against that school's color, and may the best team win. If we weren't able to move forward based on my recommendation, could we do intramurals? Absolutely.
As a follow-up on that, Aaron, depending on how you make out with the Lakes Region schools that you're going to meet with, if they're hesitant on certain sports and there's not maybe not enough games to really make it work, can you do a combination of both intramural and you know, community sports, you know, Lakes Region sports, if that makes sense? Say you have a game with Interlakes next week, not next week, well, the first week, and then the following week there's no game scheduled because one of the schools decided not to do it or did, you know, can you get the kids together and do an intramural type process then? Can you mix and match?
I don't see why not. I have seen a preliminary schedule that the Laconia athletic director put together with Lakes Region schools. Kingswood does not have a game until October 5th. I think it's organized to the point where we would have enough games with opponents leading up to that NHIAA Open tournament.
And it goes back to the transportation, and I don't know if it's a question or just a concern. And I think it's handled different on the high school level than it maybe is on the middle school level. But since transportation is going to be an issue, my concern is that having the guideline that if you miss a practice, you're benched. And when the district isn't offering transportation, or kids are on a remote day, so they haven't made it to school, have you talked at all about sort of waiving that consequence for not making it to a practice?
I have. I also think that goes to the polling of the families. We'll know in advance possibly who can't make it to every practice and perhaps even what days are going to be the toughest. None of our student athletes are going to be penalized for not making a practice due to transportation. That's not the student athlete's fault.
The other thing, Jack,
Yeah.
is that in looking at making decisions around the sports schedules, does this set a precedence for how we will handle clubs at other levels? So if the sports season is able to begin on a certain date, will the World Language Club or the Art Club or FAA still be able to occur after schools for the kids?
Well,
That depends on what the staffing pattern looks like, because we may not have the staff to do all the clubs that we have had before, because we will have a certain percentage of our staff who will be remote. So I know, I know that Scott Giesler is looking at changes to the theater program so that he can safely operate the theater program. So I think that there will be certain things that we can do, but I don't think we'll be able to go back to full-fledged doing everything that we did before we are at this point.
Okay. And while we're talking about this, I did get a text message from the same person. How do the kids that are not at school on Monday and Tuesday get to school for sports? Will there be sports on Wednesday? Will remote learning students be allowed to play? And then a follow-up to that is referencing the hybrid schedule. How will it logistically work? So, you know, all really good questions. And I think we have to put that whole plan together, the transportation part, like Aaron mentioned before. If kids need to be picked up at a particular school to be brought to sports and all, a lot of that really has to be worked out, Kathy.
I think we can probably manage the, on the days that students are in school, I think we can probably manage the late bus. The problem would be the kids who are either remote or they're in non-school hybrid days. Those families, I think, are probably going to have some responsibility for that, because I don't know how we would be able to manage it. I would think, and Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that the kids involved in remote would be eligible to play if their parents and families wanted them to. I suspect that they wouldn't necessarily participate, but they would be welcome. Is that right?
Yes, any kid that wants to play sports for Kingswood, middle school or high school, is welcome to play, whether that be a hybrid, remote, homeschool, charter school student. You know, we would essentially, you know, we're open at 2:30 every day like we have been. That would be the goal, that we're practicing, we're out there every day. And again, if a student can't make a particular practice or a series of practices, we're not going to hold that against that student.
Okay, I guess in response to this, I would say, you know, some more work to be done on the logistics and exactly how it would work for those students that are off Monday or Tuesday or whatever to be able to get to the sporting event. So that's going to have to be a work in progress, I guess. Charlene?
Aaron, I have a couple of questions. When I was reading through the original proposal, I was having a hard time understanding exactly how the safety protocols are going to work regarding mouth guards. And there was, I mean, it was, you know, it was laid out, but I'm still not completely convinced that especially with contact sports, obviously there are going to be I'm guessing no masks are going to be worn during contact sports. And so the protocol for athletes removing and inserting their mouth guards, could you explain a little more how that's going to keep our athletes safe? Number one, and number two, for the benefit of everyone who might be watching this, could you help us understand exactly how the Kingswood sports bubble is going to work, and what kind of compliance you're going to assure? And I'm guessing that once activities start taking place outside of the district, that bubble will no longer exist. So mouth guards, sports bubble, and that'll do it for now.
Okay. Well, we are receiving some guidance out of the national office in Indianapolis from the NFHS. They've suspended mouth guards for this season. So that's one sport we don't have to worry about anymore.
They suspended mouth guards for the season, he said?
For soccer. For soccer.
For soccer.
So that's one less sport that we have to worry about, that, you know, taking out the mouth guard and saliva issues. I've heard football coaches are going the way of, you know, they obviously are required to wear mouth guards, but they're doing strapped onto the helmet. Your mouth guard is going to be strapped to your helmet. So really for us, the only sport remaining, I believe, is field hockey. And I'm curious if field hockey is going to possibly do what soccer did and just say, don't worry about it this year. I personally feel like they're going to have to wear mouth guards in field hockey. I mean, you've got wooden sticks and hard balls in the field of play. So just to be clear, we haven't determined whether or not during contact sports kids will or will not be wearing some form of face coverings. Our athletic trainer would like to see the kids wearing gaiters during play. I watched a volleyball game the other night in Indiana, and I was surprised to see volleyball being played so early, because again, I feel like I'm being conservative and saying, let's get to October before we do any interscholastic stuff. But there were girls in Indiana playing a varsity volleyball game, and I saw girls, some of them wearing masks like many of you have on tonight, and others had gaiters. All the referees had them on, all the coaches had them on. So I do think that it's a new learned behavior. You know, when are we wearing our masks? When are we not wearing our masks? Even to go as far as the bench area. I heard the other day a good idea of not actually having team benches, because that leads to congregating. So spacing the kids out on the field during a game. This is your spot. This is where your water bottle goes. This is where you take your mouth guard out. And those distances would be mapped out at Alumni Field, spaced out. I've already talked to Matt Hale about painting boxes on the field. So that's where the kids would be during games and practices, really. So I'm not sure, Charlene, if that answers your question about mouth guards. It's still a work in progress, for sure. As far as the Kingswood bubble, you know, if I had a crystal ball, you know, I probably wouldn't be an athletic director, or I'd be a really good one. But what we put on here for the bubble was, you know, we want to make sure that, and we want obviously the safe piece, right? And full disclosure, we had a student athlete report to their coach that their sibling had symptoms. And as soon as that coach heard that, that player was held out of that practice session. Her sibling was tested. Turned out it was just allergies, no big deal. We allowed that player to return to practice. So this is going to be about integrity. It's going to be about honesty. It's going to be about communication and messaging that we have going out to the families and the kids. If you are ill, if you feel ill, you have to stay home, or your entire season is at stake for your particular program, not to mention all the other teams that could possibly be playing. So a bubble is tough. My wife actually tells me not to call it a bubble, because we're not the NHL, we're not the NBA. We don't have all these players under our, you know, watch 24 hours a day like those professional leagues do. Those bubbles, I believe, neither league has seen a single case yet. So that bubble is working at the professional level. So how do we do it here at Kingswood? I think, again, the best way for us right now is to keep the kids with their particular programs when they're on site. And then we would be able to do contact tracing. Our coaches are taking attendance of all the kids attending their sessions, as well as their temperatures. And if something was to happen or go south, like Mr. Streeter had mentioned, we've got a plan of attack to alert the parents and let them know that this is developed, and work at a program at a time. I don't feel as though if we have one case in one program that we need to shut down all the other teams. It's just my personal thought on that.
Krista?
I don't know who I'm addressing this to, but I'm going to use just the middle school for an example, because I can hold that in my head. They will work really hard to keep their kids all in cohort groups, so they're not interacting within the building. But then after school, they're going to go and play on sports. And so a kid that's on one of the 7th grade teams could very well be playing with the kids that is on the other 7th grade team, or on Vista, or the 2 8th grade. So if that one child has had an exposure or has been tested positive, it's more than just what happens to that sports team. It's the ripple effect to what it would do academically. Have we thought about how that ripple effect would work?
Well, you know, I think it's the same with any child that might get sick, because if you have a child in one class, but you know they've been in the hallway, or they go from one class to another class, or they have siblings that they go home to that are in different grade levels. It's a whole big issue. You know, so that's not an easy.
Yeah, I mean, if we had a confirmed case, we would definitely be in touch with DHHS so that they would do contact tracing immediately. But we would also need to do our own form of contact tracing to make sure that we shut down those areas that need to be shut down. You look like you still have a question, Krista.
No. I'm just trying to visualize the domino effect and how that happens.
Yeah, because it's very likely, especially middle school or high school, that it would affect a number of students.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Could I just, excuse me, if I could just answer that question, Ms. Saber. One of the things that I think we have the advantage of as a school district is we have guidelines and protocols that we follow for our athletes. And I truly believe that having kids participate in sports with us, we're in control, we set the guidelines. If we do not have sports, our kids are going to leave school and play in independent leagues. And I think that's one of the things that we don't discuss that much, because there'll be several athletes playing on regional teams all over the state of New Hampshire, as opposed to our Kingswood kids start with us, and if we feel it's safe by the end of September, we can then make a decision to go further. So if we do not have sports at the local level, our kids are going to still participate in travel teams, Seacoast teams, and they're still going to have that opportunity to play. So my concern is we have some control here of what we can do to keep our kids safe on our campus. So.
Yeah, and that wasn't my concern, Aaron. My concern wasn't about I want our kids to have sports, and I want them to be playing this fall, so don't get me wrong. I was just trying to be able to look at and say, if God forbid, there is some semblance of outbreak on the soccer team or the volleyball team, how do we handle it back in the academic buildings? I wasn't trying to look at how it affects the sports fields or courts.
No, understood.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you.
If I could too, the same, it could be the other way too, that a student that's not enrolled in sports is a confirmed case, and then what's the ripple effect through the teams? And someone asked that at our coaches meeting on Friday, and what would our response be as the athletic department? And if I'm understanding correctly, if we have a confirmed case in school, we're shutting down, right? 2 to 5 days, is that right?
Yeah, currently, but again, we're keeping track of the CDC guidelines because they are changing, and so we have to make sure that we're up to date. And I was also going to let the board know tonight that we have sorry? Can you hear me okay? We have a contract with an infectious disease specialist, and we'll start meeting with him this week, so he will help us keep up with some of those guidelines.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Excuse me?
There you go.
Should I say that over again? Okay. The CDC guidelines are changing. This is really, really difficult to keep up with because they change every day. We had state guidelines that changed on Friday, CDC guidelines that changed today. And so, part of our job will be to keep up with those guidelines. And so that may shift based on those guidelines, but we will have an infectious disease specialist working with us to help us manage some of these changes so that we're making responsible decisions.
So just to finish, so that was the premise that I understood, 2 to 5 days of having to possibly shut down, and my response at that time was, well, if school's closed, then sports are closed, just like it would be on a snow day. Again,
and that's exactly right. When the school's closed, then sports would be closed as well.
Jack?
Yes.
I don't know whether this should go to you or Aaron, because I don't know who's going to be able to answer it. But the NHIA is going to have open tournaments. Right now it seems like kind of a nebulous, ill-defined, if I will, concept. I'd like to know, has there been any forwarding on that, any decisions?
I don't know. I'm not, I'm not sure exactly what the whole open tournament you're talking about the open tournaments and all that. Maybe, Aaron, you might know a little bit more about exactly how these open tournaments would work and all that, because it's a pretty gray area for me.
Sure, yeah. So the open tournaments, I think it's great. I think the NHIA typically they don't like to step off their reservation, so to speak, and in this particular instance, they are not requiring schools to have a game count like they normally do, along with being in the top 2/3 of their division typically in order to make it into the state tournament. So it's an open tournament. All schools are invited to participate in that. I did hear that school districts at a particular point in time will need to declare if they want to participate. I have not seen any dates on the open tournaments yet. That's kind of the one I'm waiting to see. Is that going to coincide with this October 1 idea that we have here at Kingswood? I do know that football and golf have opted out of the open tournament. They haven't come up with what their plan is yet, but every other sport, soccer, field hockey, volleyball, they're going to have open tournaments.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions for Aaron? Okay, so at this point, I think I'd be looking either for a motion or amendments to the plan or anything that we want to do tonight as far as moving forward with the sports programs for the fall. Again, nothing is perfect, but this is certainly an opportunity to keep our student athletes, engaged and involved in some fashion. And again, everything is a moving target. So, if we approve this, it could still change if our whole situation changes. Charlene?
Well, I think it's important for families to make plans to come up with a decision. But tonight, I've heard a lot of questions to which we don't have answers. And I kind of hate, because the devil's in the details, I kind of hate to approve a plan when we don't have answers to how transportation's going to work. It just seems to me as though we need more information before we can make a decision.
Okay. Well, I think there's certainly a lot of questions out there that do have to be answered. Some of them really can't be worked on until a plan is approved and you put something in place to say, okay, this is what's been approved. How are we going to actually move it forward? So it's it's kind of you can try to have all the answers up front, and then change as the process goes forward. Try to fill in the blanks once you have a program that you want to move forward, and try to make it work. Again, I think the text message, what's the logistical process in getting all this stuff put together, and it is a work in progress. There's no question. Krista, did you have something? Yes, Jim.
I agree with Charlene's concerns, but on the other hand, I feel we can't go forward with a fully formed plan. So in the interest of time, I think, we've got a initially functioning proposal here that we can move forward with, and I don't think if we approve it, it locks us into never changing it as we move forward. So my hope would be that this would be a great starting point, and hopefully the folks who worked on this plan have been prescient enough to see all of the variables that are likely to come along, but I kind of doubt that that will be 100% true. I would feel comfortable with moving ahead with this.
Okay. Is that a motion that you'd like to make?
I would like to make a motion to accept the plan as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the plan as presented. Obviously, some work to do on some of the details after the fact, but so it's been moved and seconded. Additional discussion at this point.
I agree, obviously with the board as well, and I agree with Charlene. I would like to have just another, if, we approve this tonight, I'd like to have Aaron come back, give me numbers of who's playing what they're playing, because for me, for a board member, I don't want to find out I approved a plan and then they're going somewhere that, Manchester per se. I would not feel comfortable with that. And, I want to know too, if we're letting kids from remote area, remote learning go, and in here, I want to know what that looks like. Because in here, we were saying that we weren't going to stop for food, and we weren't going to stop in different places to drop off kids, because, New Durham and stuff, but now you're saying that we would make drop-off locations or pickups in Ossipee if kids couldn't make it to practice. So I really want to get that nailed down to what the transportation, like Tim said, the concerns are, because then if we're that's continued exposure if we're stopping here, there, and everywhere, and everyone's piling into the buses. So I will support the plan, but I really want him to come back with numbers, when they're starting, what it's going to look like, where these kids are playing, because I do not want to vote for something and find out they played somewhere and it's not something good for our community.
Thank you, Wendy. And I guess I would ask Aaron if the Sunday, September 6th at midnight is the closing for registrations. And in the meantime, between now and then, the transportation issues and all those different things will be worked out and scheduled for teams and all that once you get the Lakes Region areas settled. If shortly after that, if you can provide that information to us, and again, we're meeting on September 10th, which is that Thursday, and it would be great if we have all of that information then, so we know exactly how the process is going to work.
I will do that, and I will make sure it is not 71 pages long.
That's nice. Thank you.
Jim?
Yes.
Just one question. When it says the motion to accept the plan, well, there's a lot to the plan. And I agree with, let's go with the sign up, see how many participants we get. Now, I don't want to make an assumption, but I assume that the coaches don't have contracts yet?
That is correct.
Yeah. So we can see the numbers of students that are applying. And I agree with the chair that maybe we should come back on the 10th.
Sure. Yeah. I think if we approve this tonight, I think it's appropriate to get as much information back from Aaron on September 10th to make sure what we're approving tonight is actually going to work and play out during the sports season.
The only thing is, if we approve the plan, the plan is to have active participate in the Lakes Region School on October 5th.
Sure, and he'll have that, those details for us as well, with the schedules for the various sports and various teams.
And who the teams are. Like,
Correct.
for example, will the Lakes Region Division be the JVs of Manchester, the JVs of Concord?
No,
They're not
no, this is
Lakes
strictly going to be Lakes Region, you know, Guilford, Interlakes, Belmont.
I haven't read that anywhere.
Yeah, well, Aaron mentioned that before during his presentation, that
I'd like to
the Lakes
see
region is basically
name
the
of the
Lakes region.
teams.
So any transportation would be minimal, you know, between here and you know, close proximity, so. Aaron?
Yeah, and another thing that the athletic directors have been discussing is you really only play one school a week. So, you know, we might play, say we play Guilford, we play them in boys soccer on Monday, girls soccer Tuesday, volleyball on Wednesday. And that way, again, we're hoping that it's limiting exposure. You know, if anyone possibly is exposed, it's just those two schools. You're not playing, you know, Guilford on Monday and then Winnisquam on Tuesday, you know.
Sure.
So that's the plan as it sits right now, is limiting to regional opponents, and then making sure that you're only playing that opponent that week, that one individual school.
Charlene?
I'm going to try to offer an amendment. Everybody says, oh, no. And you can tell me if I'm out of order, Mr. Chair. What I would like to do is amend the motion to provide that on October 1st, the Director of Athletics will seek approval from the Superintendent, KRMS Principal, and KRHS Principal about playing a regional game scheduled beginning October 5th. And I really feel that because this is going to be a really big deal, I would like to add and approval from the school board to that.
I certainly have no objection to, you know, the approval of the school board as well. I think it kind of makes sense. Obviously, you know, we're responsible for approving the plan as it's presented tonight anyway. And I think any modifications or any changes or any additional approvals that need to be made, it's appropriate certainly for the superintendent and the principals to have their input, but we're the voting body here, and I think that makes sense. So I have no problem with that. If there's a second to that.
I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to add the wording in addition to the superintendent, the principal of the Kingswood Regional Middle School, the principal of the Kingswood Regional High School, and the school board would be added to the original proposal. Any questions on that? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of, let me hang on a second, amendment. Okay, approving the amendment, Krista?
Yes.
Julianne?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
And chair votes aye as well. Okay, so the motion's just been amended to include the school board for that final October 1st approval piece. So we're back onto the original motion to approve the plan as presented with that modification. Any other questions or concerns or comments? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a vote then on the original motion with the amendment for these fall sports programs as presented. Krista?
I didn't understand what you said you needed a vote on.
We're voting on the original motion to approve the plan with the additional board approval for the October, which we just approved that amendment.
Yes.
Okay. Julianne?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene? No. Dana?
Yes.
And chair votes aye, so 8-1. Thank you. Okay, Aaron, thank you very much. We'll look forward to your information before our meeting on the 10th, and hopefully everything will go well.
Good luck, Aaron.
Thank you. Go Knights.
All right. Okay, next on the agenda is basically an update on the school opening, and I'll turn that over to the superintendent to give us an update on where we are and how we're proceeding with our hybrid plan moving forward.
All right. Well, as you might guess, everyone has been working fast and furiously to put this all together today, and I want to thank Katie Hills for this. Katie did a great job taking a look at the families that we had that were requesting remote learning and matching the teachers and the families. It's looking like right now we have a pretty good match in that regard. We don't have it completely finished at this point, but it looks very good. The next order of business is to split the students who will be in the hybrid into Group A and Group B, and that will be done very, very shortly. The groups are looking good in terms of classroom spacing and teachers being able to manage students when they're here. Let's see, we are able to have a remote team in the middle school. And so, again, we have good teacher matches for that. Class sizes in the middle school, once again, look good to be able to implement all of the requirements of the reopening plan. The high school has been the most difficult because of the number of classes and the various levels that students have and classes that they need to take for graduation. So, although I do believe that we have a solution for that at this point, there are about over 100 students whose families feel like the remote option is the best option for them. I don't know why I keep losing the microphone. Is the best option for them. And so we'll be working with an outside provider so that we can get those classes to those students who are choosing to be remote. So once again, it looks like we're going to be able to accommodate all of the requirements in the plan, and we'll be able to also provide remote to the families that are requesting remote. We still have to fine-tune some things. We have to fine-tune some of the exploratory classes. Special education needs to be fine-tuned. There will be an option for special education students who really need to be there 5 days a week to be in 5 days a week. Additionally, we spoke, as you'll recall, about a couple or a few of the Lakes Region Technology Center programs that have certifications and that require that practical, hands-on, person-to-person interaction. So we have 4 of those programs, and the way that those programs are set up, there is enough space to run those 4 programs 4 days a week with a remote day, so all of the students that are signed up for those programs should be able to get their certification by running it that way. So not that we don't have a long way to go to get everything the way it needs to be before we open, but I really think that we've come about 80% of the way. So I think that's pretty remarkable for doing it in such a short period of time. We're creating really a new system here. So, and I want to thank everybody that has worked so hard, especially the SAU folks and Heather and Katie Hills and Susan Merrill and Kathy and our school administrators have been working diligently to make all of this happen, and it's very much appreciated. It's a lot of hard work.
Thank you. I'm going to just, we did get a couple of other text messages in while we were discussing the sports thing, and I apologize for not picking up on it. A couple of them did have comments about the sports program and said, approve it with the ability to change it as needed to safely function. We approved our school opening plan without all the details. Please allow sports. Details will follow. which is exactly what's happening with a lot of this. From another view, 100 students in the high school or the whole district chose remote. Is that correct? And I think it said
The question, Jack?
is 100 students the right number for remote? It's more than that.
No, that's just for the high school. We have right now we have over 100 for the high school.
Okay, it's over 100
Yeah.
for the high school. Okay.
Yeah. And I actually have the numbers for each grade level if.
Yeah, I think
If you-
that might
sure.
be important for the public to know how many students.
So in grade 1, we have 34 remote students across the district, and we have 16 that are not committed yet that could be remote. In grade 2, we have 42 remote students with the potential for 12 more. When I say potential, it's because families haven't gotten back to us. Grade 3 would be 36 remote students with 6 potential. Grade 4, 46 remote with 7 potential. Grade 5, 42 with 11 potential. Grade 6, 50 with 7 more potential. And then 31 in kindergarten with 11 more potential. So we have quite a few requests, and we have many more homeschoolers than is typical for this year as well.
Yeah.
I don't have middle school and high school here, but we've got one team approximately for middle school, so that's, anywhere between 80 and 100 students. And then high school, as I said, is over 100.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 138 now, but parents are going to be given the option, since it won't be Governor Wentworth teachers that will be providing the remote education. Parents may decide they would rather do the hybrid.
Yep.
So.
Okay. And the other question, obviously, which we really can't answer yet, but we're working on that. We have 1 to 4 cases in our district, basically, and that's true for almost all the towns within the district. 1 to 4 cases have been right now. There's no active cases, I don't believe, in any of the 6 towns. However, it says at exactly what point will you loosen the guidelines to let the kids go back to school more than twice a week? The schools surrounding our district are opening 5 days. One of the comments I'd make on that, we're obviously a regional school district. We have 6 different towns plus a 7th town that tuition students in. Most of these towns around us that are going back full-time are single town schools. Moltenboro, Interlakes for the most part, although Interlakes does take a couple of different towns in. Much smaller schools, and they have the capacity to do the 6-foot social distancing within their classrooms, big classrooms, small class sizes. So it's not an easy answer, but we talked about this a little bit earlier, that as the school year progresses, we're going to open on the 14th. We're going to see how it goes. The sooner we can get all the kids back to the classroom, I think we all agree that that's the goal, to get all the kids back in the classroom at some point when it's safe. But it has to be safe, and with the guidelines changing on a constant basis, we're going to have to continue to look at that on a daily, weekly, bi-weekly basis to see what makes most sense for us. All the plans are being put together right now, and we're going to make those decisions as the time approaches and the time is right to change the direction that we're going. Hopefully, sooner rather than later, but who knows what the future is going to bring. Let's see, I think there's just got a couple more. Okay, if my child has an IEP and is a remote student, who will be his study skills support person?
There will be a remote special education teacher.
Okay. Can we get the number of kids that are doing the hybrid model? Well, I suppose if we take the numbers that Kathy just gave us for all the elementaries and just subtract those from the total of roughly 2,400 students in the district, well, we can get those numbers easy enough. What outside agency will be providing the remote learning for the middle school, if not middle school staff?
There's no outside agency for the middle school. The middle school will have a remote team. It's the high school that we have had the problem staffing, so it will be Eduseer at this point. It looks like they'll be the provider.
Okay, but middle school will be the middle school teachers?
But middle school,
Yep.
it will be middle school teachers.
Okay.
Same for elementary.
Yep.
Is it the same for elementary, Kathy? That will be our teachers?
Yeah, elementary is all Governor Wentworth teachers.
Okay, so far, that's all the text message, I think. Maybe somebody else is coming in. Hang on a second. Please, more information about the remote learning kids, timing, who is teaching. All of that stuff is really being worked on right now on matching up the teachers, the classes and all that. And, that's a work in progress, but we're getting close to knowing exactly what those numbers are going to be and how it's going to all fit together. The puzzle pieces are starting to be put in place. So, anything else? Okay, hearing nothing, we have some non-public this night. Okay, so I would entertain a motion right now to go into non-public under RSA 91A semicolon 3, paragraph 2, for personnel matters.
No public input.
Oh, I forgot, public input. I'm very sorry.
Hi, I'm Tim Caravella. My daughter Jillian's going to be a junior at Kingswood this year. And I am also a business owner, and I have and completely understand working on the micro level on all the issues that we have with COVID-19. But I want to step back and take a look from the macro level at the reality of being a parent in 2020 in COVID. On July 4th, when everybody came up to the Lakes region, I thought within 2 weeks we were done. I thought we were going to have cases everywhere. I was really concerned. And lo and behold, it didn't happen, even though there are plenty of cars from Massachusetts and New Jersey and New York, Connecticut. Right after July 4th, my daughter started participating in unofficial soccer practice and did that several days a week. She took part in the New Hampshire Tomahawks lacrosse intensive program in Bedford, which was cleared by the state of New Hampshire. The state of New Hampshire also allowed participants from the state of Massachusetts. So she did that for 10 sessions and was a very intense. No cases ever came out of that. She works 4 shifts at the Yum Yum shop, 7-hour shifts, 4 days a week. And tonight, she's at dance, auditioning for a dance program that's going to happen. If school starts and sports does not, what will that change in her life? She will be dancing 2 to 3 nights a week. She will be working at the Yum Yum shop several days a week. She will be going back to New Hampshire Tomahawks to play lacrosse several days a week. So I think if we look at it from a macro instead of a micro, we're looking at sports as being this entity that could, wreak havoc amongst our community. It's already out there. Kids are playing sports. Kids are working. Kids are traveling. Kids are going out. I don't think stopping sports is the issue, and I'm very glad that you guys passed tonight, and I wish I had said this before and not now, but I want to thank you for all yours, but I just wanted to give a look from the macro that if sports does stop, other things do not. And these kids are still going to be coming to school and doing the same things. Thank you.
Certainly appreciate that. Thank you. Another couple of texts that just came in just to read. I'll read this first, and then we'll take the next public input. This is a difficult one, and I'll explain why we really can't do this. Would you make an exception for elementary schools to move forward with 5 days 5 days a week if we had the space for distancing and keep the middle and high school on a hybrid model. That would be terrific if we could do that. We know that in most of our elementary schools, we do not have the space to do the 6-foot distancing right at this time, which is still the CDC guidelines, at least what we're working with. If it was brought up to me that maybe one town's elementary school might be able to accommodate all the students and all that. One thing we have to remember, we are a cooperative school district. And what we try to do is to make sure that all of our children get the same opportunities across the district. So it certainly wouldn't be fair to look at one school or one particular grade level in a school or something to say, you can come back full-time, but the rest of the students can't. That may not be the fairest way to do it. I think it is the fairest way to do it in a cooperative school district. It may not be the best answer for people, but that's really what we're dealing with. We have to make sure that we provide the same quality education we can for all of our students. And when it's time to come back full-time, 5 days a week for all the students, every student will be in that process and we'll move forward that way. So that's that answer. And let's see. Somebody asked Kathy if you could just repeat the name of the hybrid, the remote. The people said they just couldn't understand exactly what that was.
It's Educere, EDUCERE.
Okay, Educere, okay. Again, I think this is all of these questions. The next one is about with 12% of the students wanting remote, 88% wanting to be in school. At what point do we open up for the entire district? Those numbers are actually a little bit lower if you add all the elementary schools and the high school together and all that. I think it's closer to 25%. However, that's again a work in progress as all of this information continues to come forward. Obviously, right now we're in very good shape as far as cases in our particular area. But when we took our vote to delay opening until the 14th, a lot of that had to do with what's happening in the Lakes region this week with Motorcycle Week and all these other people coming back from vacations that they've been on, coming back home here to the Valley, to the Lakes region rather. So yeah, I think we're taking a cautious approach to it. And we're going to start with our remote process. But again, the goal is to get all the kids back in the classroom as soon as it's safe for them to be in the classroom. So we have somebody that would like to speak.
Hi, my name is Bobby. I also have a junior here at school. My son, however, is going to be skipping fall sports, but I am not against fall sports. I just want to say that. I just want to add a couple things that might be helpful to the program, and it might be in the literature, but as an ex-athletic director, a few things that I did not hear in what was being talked about is some of the most important things we can do in society right now is testing. And we have rapid tests. My son right now is at a way camp, and it is successful. They're wearing masks, they were rapidly tested, they have small cohorts where they don't wear masks. Oddly, he's at camp with Bobby Burns' brother, so it's someone pretty close to our community that maybe we could talk about how they did it. But for game day away games, if we get into it, I don't understand why we won't have rapid testing of a sample on both teams who are getting together. The test takes 13 minutes. York Hospital gives the test for $25. At some point, surely there's a way our school system can get their hands on some rapid tests. Very easy testing. It's a nasal swab. I've had it done. Pretty easy. There's also a blood finger prick that New Jersey's using for testing. So I just want to throw that out there, that if we are going to have interscholastic sports where our kids are traveling, that we have testing amongst the towns. The other thing that I wanted to just add, during practices, there is a way that we can, with contact sports, where in our practices, if our kids are not participating in as much contact during their practices and just saving that for their away games, coaches can handle running their practices without the kids needing to be all over each other. Again, I'm like an eternal optimist of all this. I think it can work. I want my kid in school, my kids away at camp. Just wanted to add that. And then the other thing I'm worried about, I don't have skin in the game again, but if we're running soccer practices without children with mouth guards, there is serious concussion issues that happen with the head hits and other things. So I don't know how we need to look at that, but mouth guards are there for a reason, and I think that should be discussed a little bit more for the safety of our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, well, I jumped the gun before, so advanced planning, as you know, down below, we're meeting, our next school board meeting is Thursday, the 7th, September 10th, rather, at 7 p.m., and the first day of school is the 14th of September. And any closing comments by board members? Or do we want to go right into non-public? All right. I'd entertain a motion to go into non-public then under RSA 91A, semicolon 3, paragraph 2 for personnel issues.
So moved.
It's been moved in Dr. Jim. Jim, second. Okay, Krista?
Yes.
Julianne?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Dr. Jim?
Yes.
Jim Pittman?
Yes.
Charlene? Dana?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. We are in non-public. Thank you very much.